The Northern Neck is the northernmost of three peninsulas on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay of Virginia. This region has incredible history ranging from the 17th century to current day. Today, we'll be exploring three of these locations along the Northern Neck Hidden History Trail. Our first stop is the historic Westmoreland Courthouse. It has an array of exhibits. It also houses the African American Military Service exhibit. This exhibit commemorates the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States and honors the sacrifice of the many brave men and women of color, enslaved and free. Next, we take a short drive to Cone Hall in Northumberland County. Cone Hall was an early British colonial plantation owned by John Mottram. However, this hidden history is all about a woman by the name of Elizabeth Keyi. Elizabeth Keyi was the first woman of African ancestry in the American colonies to sue for her freedom and her infant son from slavery and win. There are no structures left on the property from Elizabeth Keyi's time. The only structure here is this old hotel built much later, but it's still inspiring to be on the land. My final destination is a place called Churchill's Beach in Whitestone, Virginia. This piece of hidden history touched many lives in the area. I caught up with Albert Jackson, who is one of the founders of the Northern Neck Hidden History Trail.
The Northern Neck is a peninsula, actually, between the Rappahannock River, the Potomac River that empties into the Chesapeake Bay. It's a very historic area because three presidents were born here: George Washington, James Madison, and James Monroe. Other than that, there's just great history here.
Tell me about the Northern Neck Hidden History Organization.
I'm one of three founders, my brother Robert Jackson, and then my cousin Dr. Yvonne Evelyn Triggle-Moore. The three of us came up with the concept of the Northern Neck Hidden History Trail. And it really was based on a trip that we made to Martha's Vineyard, and we went one of the tours, and when we finished the tour, we said, the Northern Neck has so much to offer, so we began to work on it after that.
In that spirit, you have developed the Northern Neck Hidden History Trail. Please tell me about the trail.
Our goal is to uplift the hidden history of this area. There's so many stories, family stories, and just great stories of people who impact this area and our nation as a whole, and those stories have not been told, and so our goal is to uplift those stories.
You mentioned Churchill Beach, which is where we are now. Tell me what we know about Churchill Beach.
Churchill Beach was purchased by four brothers, and they turned it into a dance club and a hotel. It was on the Chitlin Circuit, so that means people who could not go and stay at regular hotels, they stayed here. We had performers here from James Brown, Gladys Knight, Etta James, just so many. And the community, it doesn't matter, white and black, whatever, they remember sitting on their porches and hearing the music and celebrating the music that came from this area. So it was a joyous time for this community. Family member Ralph Churchill tells us about his family and more about this unique resort.
I am the youngest of 14 children. There were 8 boys and 6 girls in my family. My 4 oldest brothers, well, they were business orientated at a young age. They had learned about this property and they wanted to purchase it. They went to the Northern Neck State Bank in Warsaw, Virginia. The president told them the only way they could get the money was my parents would have to put up our home property for collateral. They accepted that. They purchased it in 1947. I was 12 years old when the property was first purchased. All of the land was not clear. My brother Alfred, my nephew Morris, and I would come down on weekends and help clear that land, and the whole family was involved in supporting my brothers. There was a dance hall, and there were about 6 cabins built behind that. It was the center of recreation for the Northern Neck.
On a Saturday afternoon, what would it be like here?
There would be crowds. Visitors would come from Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and spend their vacations. They would come and dance. If the dance hall was full, there would be people outdoors dancing on the grounds.
Churchill's Beach was definitely a hidden gem here in the Northern Neck. Why is it so important to preserve this history, and specifically here in the Northern Neck?
It's important because it helps people to have a greater sense of place. It helps them to have a greater pride in what their family has contributed to this community. and not just to this community, but to the U.S. as a whole.
Back in the 40s, when this property was developed, it was the only entertainment for people in this area. Blacks could not travel then like they do now, and they didn't have hotel accommodations and whatnot. That's why I think this was an asset to this community and surroundings.
The Northern Neck Hidden History Trail and this region is full of extraordinary history and compelling stories. These sites tell the story of America from as early as the 17th century all the way to the present. I highly recommend a trip here, but be prepared to stay a few days to take in as much hidden history as possible.